The modern cultural landscape resembles a desert of the real. Concentric rings of representation replace actual territory, surrounding human consciousness with a shimmering hyperreality. Jean Baudrillard identified the engine of this landscape, the simulacrum. This is a sign generating its own reality without an original referent. It functions as a copy of a copy, where the original never existed. This hyperreal state creates a philosophical dead end. It forms a closed loop of information, obstructing human access to any transcendent truth. Jean-Luc Marion offers a path through this loop by focusing on the phenomenology of the given. Marion brackets out human interpretation to examine how phenomena manifest through their own power, independent of our subjective control. The parable of the sower provides the structural map needed to navigate this transition from Baudrillard's simulation to Marion's given reality. The collapse of the simulacrum acts as a necessary reduction. The failure of the hyperreal prepares the postmodern subject for a genuine encounter with an uncontainable reality. We can track the subject's consciousness through 4 stages: path, rocks, thorns, and good soil. The first quadrant highlights the path. In the parable, seed falls onto this path and birds devour it before the soil can absorb the message. This compacted soil represents the hyperreal psyche. Constant exposure to prepared realities hardens human consciousness, making the mind an impenetrable surface. Media saturation drives this hardening process. These environments detach consciousness from real emotional engagement, offering a world of empty appearances. In this state, the divine, or the real, becomes unintelligible. The conceptual framework of the simulation precedes experience, short-circuiting the reception of truth because the subject lacks reference for anything outside the procession of simulacra. The seed finds no purchase. It fails to germinate because the surface has become impervious. The hyperreal psyche creates spiritual impenetrability. Meaning remains inoperable before it can attempt to take root. The second quadrant models the rocky ground, where seed sprouts quickly but dies from a lack of root depth. This shallow soil illustrates Marion's concept of the idol. Marion defines the idol as a mechanism of the gaze. It functions as a mirror rather than a physical statue. Dangerous because it reflects human finitude, the idol shrinks reality down to the measure of the viewer's own conceptual limits. Baudrillard's simulacrum pushes this further, creating a flattened idol. This flattened version is more destructive because it replaces the presence of God with the veneration of nothingness. While a traditional idol might substitute a creature for the creator, the flattened idol masks a total absence, trapping the subject in an endless circuit of signs with no exit. Curated online personas demonstrate this. They exist as representations of an ideal self, wholly devoid of a reality-based substance. The parable's tribulation is the ontological crisis that occurs when these hollow representations meet real-world suffering. The flattened idol offers a brief high, but because it is a copy without an original, it withers under existential pain. The third quadrant displays the thorns, where seed is choked by the deceitfulness of wealth. This wealth maps to Baudrillard's sign-exchange value. In this system, objects lose their intrinsic meaning. They are consumed only as signifiers of status within a matrix of other objects. This constant circuit of consumption creates a crowded heart, leaving no space for the word to produce fruit. Clearing these thorns requires deconstruction. Because sign-exchange value is a manufactured system of meaning, we need a critical method to dismantle the hidden assumptions that give these signs power. This dismantling facilitates a theological kenosis, a radical self-emptying that strips away the subject's attachment to the consumerist matrix. The loss of the simulacrum's promises induces a psychological void. This emptiness is a gift, functioning as a reduction that removes the subject's illusion of mastery. The final quadrant models the good soil, representing the void left behind by successful deconstruction. This state describes the new phenomenological position of the subject, la donnée, or the given to. The subject shifts from a sovereign master to a site of pure receptivity. Marion proposes replacing the flattened idol with the icon. Here is the mechanical difference. The idol arrests the gaze. The icon functions as a transparent mirror, opening the visible world toward the invisible infinite. This openness mirrors Derrida's hauntology. The subject engages with reality as an absent, spectral trace that perpetually points beyond its own surface. Slowing down, final concluding tone. By becoming an empty vessel, the subject provokes a reversal of intentionality. They are prepared to be gazed upon by a truth they cannot control. This constrained bounding box illustrates standard phenomenological calculation. We expect input to match output. A calculating farmer requires this adequate phenomenon, a contained return on an investment. But the parable of the sower completely destroys this strict calculating logic through the sower's reckless, explosive generosity. This action models radical givenness, a force ignoring human constraints and our expectations of profit. In the parable, the seed on good soil yields 100-fold harvest. This impossible harvest defines the saturated phenomenon, where intuition surpasses our conceptual capacity to contain it. The desert of the real forces the collapse of self-made idols. Embracing that emptiness allows for the state of la donnée, the only posture capable of receiving a reality in excess of human measure.